Saudi Arabia is making massive moves that could absolutely set the stage for the end-time scenarios that will unfold. The Temple Mount and the Third Temple and their connection to that is starting to unfold. They're currently in talks with Israel and the Abrahamic Accords for a peace plan. They have their own national vision, something called Vision 2030, similar in lines with the UN's Agenda 2030. Within that, they're building something called the Line, which really seems more like a prison than a city. They're also in talks with BRICS, which could be an economic unifying world order that will be the type of world order that the Antichrist will one day be in control of to control the world's economy. First, we'll look at Saudi Arabia's emerging connection to the Temple Mount. In an article by the Jerusalem Post just a week ago, it's titled, "Don't Let Saudis Have Any Role on the Temple Mount, Put Israel in Charge." Talks reportedly recently began in Israel about giving Saudi Arabia an official status on the Temple Mount, in addition or as a replacement for Jordan, which had a custodian status on the Temple Mount since 1994. The reason for these talks is to move toward a normalization with Saudi Arabia between Israel. The Temple Mount is the location where the Third Temple is believed to be built, where the Antichrist will go and cause the abomination of desolation. More news came out recently on August 2nd linking Saudi Arabia to the Third Temple in an article that says high-speed rail to bring pilgrims from Saudi Arabia to Third Temple by 2040. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced a $27 billion plan to link the north and south of the country of Israel by rail. Netanyahu said, quote, "It will also be able to link Israel by train to Saudi Arabia and the Arabian Peninsula. We're working on that too." Many Jewish people believe that this train would be a sign of the coming Messiah that they're still expecting, not Jesus Christ, a figure who will most likely be either the Antichrist or the false prophet. In alignment with this, Saudi Arabia and Israel are currently in peace plan talks, something else that the Antichrist will also do, a 7-year peace treaty that he will break halfway through it in 3.5 years.
I have to say that I think there's something else that could develop, and we discussed it at great length. There is now the possibility that we might have the expansion of the Abraham Accords to normalization with Saudi Arabia. All three countries view that as a great possibility, but they also see that this could lead to a connection between India, the Arabian Peninsula, Israel, Cyprus, Greece, Europe. There is a natural, there's a geographic connection, but it could be also something that would lead to many, many rewards for our peoples and for our countries.
The Antichrist will come on the scene declaring to bring peace and all the religions and the people of the world together, with most likely the Third Temple there at the Temple Mount being the location where everyone comes to worship, where he eventually goes and stands in and declares himself to be God. And we're starting to see how this could all be clearly set up between these different nations, with Saudi Arabia having a big role in it. Speaking of a train line connecting Saudi Arabia to Israel, Saudi Arabia is also building something called the Line, which really seems more like a prison than a city. Take a look at it yourself.
For too long, humanity has existed within dysfunctional and polluted cities that ignore nature. Now, a revolution in civilization is taking place. Imagine a traditional city and consolidating its footprint, designing to protect and enhance nature. The Line will be home to 9 million residents and will be built with a footprint of just 34 square kilometers. And we are designing it to provide a healthier, more sustainable quality of life. The Line's communities are organized in 3 dimensions. Residents have access to all their daily needs within 5-minute walk neighborhoods. And the Line's infrastructure makes it possible to travel end-to-end in 20 minutes with no need for cars, resulting in 0 carbon emissions. By leveraging AI technology, services are autonomous, saving you time and effort. With 40% of the world accessible within 6 hours, at the heart of the globe's key trade routes, a place for commerce and communities to thrive like nothing on Earth seen before. The Line, the city that delivers new wonders for the world.
It really looks more like an eco-friendly prison than anything. You don't see any doors or roads leading to that facility. This is part of something that Saudi Arabia is calling their Vision 2030 to move their economy off of oil into other types of resources. This city that will house 9 million people is part of that plan, but their Vision 2030 sounds very similar to the UN's Agenda 2030, another absolute control system trying to be set up by world government, really. These types of world control is something the Antichrist will fully be a part of. These are most likely precursors to that eventual world control system that he will be in control of being in place. And what better way to control a population than people who are already trapped in a massive building and facility such as the line? It'd be pretty easy for mandates and new rules to be controlled and put in place there than when people actually live on their own outside in a regular city. This is similar to the concept of 15-minute cities that we're hearing, connected to this Agenda 2030 type concept of where everything you need is within a 15-minute walk or bike ride. You don't need a car, you don't need any freedom, you just need to do whatever you're told, all in the name of protecting the climate.
Instead of being built around cars, cities should be designed around the distance of a quarter of an hour walk or bike ride. That's the mantra behind the 15-minute city project envisioned by Paris-based Professor Carlos Moreno, where work, housing, shops, schools and leisure options would all be within a person's immediate vicinity.
Saudi Arabia was also invited recently to be a part of BRICS, which is a grouping of the world economies of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, some of the world's fastest growing economies. And here's an article on Reuters about 2 weeks ago saying Saudi Arabia eyes world stage after BRICS invitation. This again looks like a type of precursor to the world control of economies that the Antichrist will be a part of. Kind of seems like that's the stage we're in the world right now, where different things are looking like precursors in a way to what the Antichrist will have complete control of pretty much the world in every single way. In my opinion, it looks more like a precursor and almost like a stage or 2 stages before how we will eventually get to the point where the Antichrist is in complete control of everything. It doesn't make sense it'll just happen overnight. People have to get warmed up to the idea, so when it fully comes, it's accepted by the majority of people. So it's good to be aware of these things, to be watchful to see if that's what's taking place. But of course, God has the final say. Things will only unfold when He decides them to fully come to their fruition. Psalms 2 is a good chapter that tells us this in verses 1 through 4, which says, "Why are the nations so angry? Why do they waste their time with futile plans? The kings of the earth prepare for battle. The rulers plot together against the Lord and against His anointed one. Let us break their chains," they cry, "and free ourselves from slavery to God. But the one who rules in heaven laughs. The Lord scoffs at them." These things will only take place on God's timeline, so it's important to keep our trust in that. But we'll be watching, just like Jesus told us to, for the signs and for them to unfold. And in my opinion, it looks more like a precursor and the stages before the final time takes place at the end times. And we're starting to see that Saudi Arabia may be having a bigger role in that whole timeline and scenario than we previously thought. Keep in good relationship with God in these times that we're in. That's the most important. Through reading the Bible, through prayer, through worship to God. These are good ways to stay in a close communion with Him. That's the most important thing in these times. Also, I want to mention tomorrow, 5 p.m. Central Time, I'll be live streaming for YouTube members and for Patreon supporters. So if you're on either of those things, I'll send out a link, 5 p.m. Central Time for a live stream. I want to give back to everybody who's supporting me there. Just don't have the time to make a full type video like this. So live stream tomorrow at that time. And I just pray that everyone watching this as well. Thank you for watching, and God bless.